Hi everybody, I hope that you're all doing really well. So today I am back to do something which I did say I was not going to be doing a lot of on this channel, that being a book haul. However, I did give some exceptions to the book hauling on the regular, which was if it was my birthday, if it was Christmas, and if I went to York and spent a little bit of time in their charity shops, because the York charity shops, they always get me. And yes, last week, me, my mum and my sister did do a quick little trip to York, and I love York so much. I've missed it so much. The last time that I was in York was in January for my graduation, and it's just such a beautiful, beautiful city. And let me just gush about York for a second. It's got so much history just everywhere, all over the place, like from the walls to the Minster. It's beautiful. It's a city, but it doesn't feel like a city. It doesn't feel like this big, like, hustle and bustle, like being pushed around by everybody. It feels like nice and calm and lovely. And yet it's got loads of things to do. It's got all the connections that you'd want from a city. It's got theatres. It's got museums, like a bunch of museums. It's got shops. It's got everything that you would want. And I miss it so, so much. Like, if publishing companies could set up a base in York, then I would happily live in York. But right now, I'm still trying at the London thing, for better or for worse. But yes, I have a little selection of books that I picked up in York. I also have some things that just came through in the post, because I will just say, even though I had grand plans of going to York and just filling my bags with as many books as possible, I went into the charity shops and I kind of felt the old urges of when I was a student seeping in, of where you're looking at all of these books that you're so excited about and you're thinking, no, you probably shouldn't buy that because you'll probably find something in another shop that you like, and you know, money's tight, you don't want to do it. And I had full plans of going crazy, you know, in the only way that I know how to go crazy, which is buying loads of books. And I didn't do it. I only came out with like 5 books. And I had plans for a lot more than that. So maybe when we get more round to Christmas time, I might feel a bit more confident in doing that. I also went into the Waterstones, which, what a beautiful Waterstones. I went into W.H. Smith's, we went to the Outlet, and I had a little trip into the Works. It was very, very weird being back in shops again, I have to say. I mean, we were all masked up and everything, but it's weird. It's a weird, man. Like, I hadn't been in a bookshop for a good 5 months, which I was so excited to be back in a shop, but out of practice, and still it's a little bit like, I have never seen the Waterstones in York so empty before. It's really sad. I mean, we've got to do what we've got to do, you know, to kick this COVID-19 out. But yeah, it's just so sad. But I'm going to start off with some books that just came through my door, which is poetry! I'm not a massive poetry reader. It's something that I kind of dabble in, but I'm not entirely confident in yet. Poetry is something I'm always wanting to get more and more into, but I find a lot of the time I'm not a massive fan of contemporary poetry. I think because a lot of contemporary poetry is more towards like the free verse kind of side of things, and I'm a simple girl. I like a rhyming scheme. I like meter, you know. A lot of the time I read modern poetry and I'm kind of like, is this poetry or is this just words on a page? I don't know. I feel like I tend to get on a lot better with like more classic poetry, and last year I read a little selection of John Donne and I was just blown away by it. I wasn't expecting to like it, but my goodness. I mean, some of John Donne's poetry is absolutely insane and you're kind of like, what is going on in your mind? But some of it is just gorgeous, which made me think I might prefer more standard classic poetry. So I've been trying to dip my toes into it. I did a bit of the Bronte sisters poetry at the beginning of this year and absolutely adored it. And also because I've been reading Romantic Outlaws, which is the dual biography of Mary Wollstonecraft and Mary Shelley by Charlotte Gordon, I've been pushed a little bit more into pursuing the romantic poets. So here I have 2 Faber and Faber editions of romantic poets. I have this gorgeous one of Lord Byron and this one of Percy Bysshe Shelley. This one I've read, this one I'm coming on to. Really quite enjoyed Shelley. I don't think he's a favourite poet of all time for me, but some of these in here I found absolutely gorgeous. As I've said before, I always tab my favourites. I think my favourite one in here was Mutual Ability. And yeah, I'm really excited to get round to Lord Byron. And then the other poetry collection that I got was the Sonnets by William Shakespeare. I mean, I do have the Sonnets in my big collected Norton anthology of Shakespeare, but I wanted a copy of it on its own, of course. I just got Sonnet 130 in my head the other day, and I just kept on reciting it around my house. I was on my own in my house. Like, my mum wasn't just like, Charlotte, what are you doing? But yeah, I got it in my head, and then I started Googling some more of the sonnets, and I was like, now's the time, I need to actually properly sit down and read this. So I am slowly poring over these. I'm right at the beginning. I've just read the first two sonnets, which are the procreation sonnets, which I'm finding so funny to read. It's basically Shakespeare being like, procreate, damn it, have children. And I mean, I'm only 2 sonnets deep into this so far, and I, you know, like, I know some of the standard ones. I know 130, I know Shall I Compare Thee to a Summer's Day, but oh my god, these are gorgeous, absolutely beautiful poets. And if you've not done the sonnets yet, please do. I also mentioned on Instagram that I've done a bad thing, which is that I've started to collect the Penguin English Monarchs series. This is a bad idea because I'm going to want all of these. So back in 2016, I think, Penguin started this series where they commissioned a bunch of historians to do little tiny mini biographies of the different monarchs of England and then Great Britain. And they came out in these little hardbacks, which are absolutely stunning. Though obviously little hardbacks with this kind of artwork are a little bit more expensive. So they then reverted to the paperbacks, and these are very, very reminiscent of the Penguin Great Ideas series. You know, kind of short little collectible series that you can get each one for £5. And yeah, I've been eyeing these for quite a while, but I kind of held off because I know that if I buy one, then I'm gonna want to buy them all. And yeah, I've basically just succumbed to this eventually. And I'm considering doing a little video series on each of these books. Let me know if that's something that you're interested in. So I have Athelstan, which is the first in the collection. This one is written by Tom Holland. Not that Tom Holland, this Tom Holland. The second one, which is Aethelred the Unready, the Failed King, written by Richard Abels. This one I could only find in the hardback for whatever reason. They haven't converted all of them to the paperback yet. And then William I, which is written by Marc Morris. And now at long last we are getting into some of the charity shop books. And I'm going to start off with the fiction because there is less of that, and it's probably what you're more interested in. First thing I picked up was Safiya Khan is Not Obliged by Ayisha Malik. This is a book that I have seen Lena from Lena Norms praising. I also saw that Fee from What Fee Found recently picked this up and said that she was really excited to read this. So I'm really keen to read this. This seems kind of more like on the rom-com kind of chick lit side, which I do like to indulge in every now and then. Safiya Khan is single once more after her sort of boyfriend proves just a little too close to his parents. And she'd be happy that way too if her boss hadn't asked her to write a book about the weird and wonderful world of Muslim dating. Of course, even though she definitely isn't looking for love, to write the book, she does need to do a little research. I always hear all the time that Ayisha Malik is such a witty, funny writer. I know she also wrote This Green and Pleasant Land. Let me know if there are any other books by her, because if I enjoy this, I'll definitely want to pick up more. Next we have Now We Shall Be Entirely Free by Andrew Miller. This is historical fiction, which I found. This is a book that I don't really know that much about, but its cover has always drawn me in. And I don't know, I feel like it's just following me round. So when I found it in the charity shop, I was like, fine, I will buy you. Okay, fine. When Captain John LaCroix returns to England after fighting Napoleon's forces in Spain, he is not the man he was. A survivor of the British Army's infamous retreat to Corunna, he carries with him a shameful secret, one he will travel to the outer reaches of Scotland to forget. Oh, all the way to Scotland. LaCroix's journey to the Hebrides leads to encounters with thieves and free thinkers, to unexpected friendships, even love. But as the short northern summer reaches its zenith, the shadow of the enemy is creeping closer. Unbeknownst to LaCroix, a vicious English corporal and a Spanish officer are on his trail. Freedom for John LaCroix will come at a high price. This really does not seem like my typical read, but I am open-minded. The cover is basically what is bringing me to this. I mean, look at this pretty Regency lady. Aww, and it's shiny. And then finally in fiction, to the delight of Kieran from KD Books, I did find and I did pick up The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. Yeah, you did it, fine. Kieran has been on a fierce campaign to get everybody to read The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. This is the second, I believe, of her 3 novels, the other 2 being The Secret History and The Goldfinch, which I have read and enjoyed. But I'd never picked up The Little Friend because I'd heard from other people that it's just not that great in comparison. But Kieran is insistent that this is the best Tartt. So, the best Tartt. So I am trusting you, Kieran. You better not let me down. And then finally, we basically get into a stack of history because I couldn't help myself. The last charity shop book that I bought was Queens of the Conquest, The Extraordinary Women Who Changed the Course of English History from 1066 to 1167 by Alison Weir. This was quite a fortuitous find because I was actually listening to this exact book on audiobook through my library's audiobook app. So when I found it, I was like, get it now, get it now. So now I do have my own copy of the book that I'm listening to, which I'm very excited about because I was going to buy it anyway. This is the first book in Alison Weir's England's Medieval Queens series. This recounts the lives of Matilda of Flanders, Matilda of Scotland, Adeliza of Louvain, Empress Maud or Empress Matilda, yay, and also Matilda of Boulogne. The next book, which is coming out in November, is The Queens of the Crusade, which I believe she has said that she's not going to be focusing on Eleanor of Aquitaine and Isabella of France because she's already done like full biographies of both of those women. But I can't imagine that she would talk about Queens of the Crusade without having a little mention of Eleanor of Aquitaine. And no, we'll see what she does. As I say, I nipped into the W.H. Smiths whilst I was in York, and because I am thinking about doing that Penguin Monarchs series of videos, I decided to pick up Kings and Queens of the British Isles, A History of Monarchy, which is a Times publication. This is basically like a very stripped down, bare bones, whistle-stop tour of the Kings and Queens of Britain. It is basically like an introductory history of these Kings and Queens. It's not going to go in quite as much detail, but I thought just as a precursor to the English monarchs, just to give me more of a grounding in some of the areas that I'm not very familiar with, like very early medieval England, I am not that great with. I kind of turn my brain off at that. And I just generally love these kind of introduction histories. I really highly recommend them if you are trying to get more into history. And I'd seen this one for quite a while, and I think just basically, like, look at it. Like, look at that. Who doesn't want that? I mean, of course they would have Henry VIII on the front, like, look at that. Look at him go. Following on from that, we went to the York Designer Outlet and I did a little wander around the works, and there I really, strangely, I wasn't expecting to find this at all, I found Uncrowned Queen, The Fateful Life of Margaret Beaufort, Tudor Matriarch by Nicola Tallis. This is a book I think I saw recommended on Steve Donahue's channel. He was talking about this and basically talking about Margaret Beaufort and what an extraordinary, in many ways, woman Margaret Beaufort was. Margaret Beaufort was the mother of Henry VII, and she really, really pushed Henry VII's claim to the throne, even though that claim was tenuous at best, I would say. And she had quite an extraordinary, in many ways, quite a tragic life. Margaret actually gave birth to Henry when she was just 13 years old, and it had a massive physical and mental impact on her. Like, they both almost died from that horrific experience, and it left her unable to have children ever again. I think Steve even said, like, after that experience, she really became somebody who wasn't even really human in the way that she interacted and dealt with people. She basically just had this laser focus on her one goal of having her son be king. And, like, I know little bits here and there about Margaret Beaufort when she's mentioned in other Tudor biographies, but I've never read an entire biography just about her, so I'm really, really keen to get to this and see what I think of her. And quite appropriately, following on from that, I also found The House of Beaufort, The Bastard Line That Captured the Crown by Nathan Amen, which, yeah, does what it says on the tin. It is basically a history recounting the rise of the House of Beaufort. Honestly, The War of the Roses is a period of history that, despite the fact that I'm a big Tudor fan, I've never been all that interested in the Wars of the Roses. I think it's literally because it's a war, and I'm not that big into war military history, and I feel like that's a lot of what I see rather than like the social side or like the cultural history surrounding that. It's often, you know, lots of battles, which is not my favourite thing in the world. But, you know, whatever, it's very important, so I have to learn more about it. So definitely a pair of books that I need to read in succession. And then finally, capping off this entire little royal history, quite appropriately, we're back with the Tudors, and I found Henry VIII, The Decline and Fall of a Tyrant by Robert Robert Hutchinson, and I think you can tell straight away what the angle is going to be here. I don't think we're going to be getting quite a sympathetic portrayal of Henry VIII with this. The Tudors retained only a precarious grip on the crown of England, founded on a title that was both tenuous and legally flimsy. This left them preoccupied by two major obsessions: the necessity for a crop of lusty male heirs to continue the bloodline, and the elimination of threats from dynastic rivals. None was cursed more by this rampant insecurity than Henry VIII, who embodied not only the power and imperial majesty of the monarchy, but also England's military might. His health had always had huge political consequences at home and overseas, hence his unbridled hypochondria. Drawing on the latest historical and medical research, Robert Hutchinson reveals the extent to which the king also grappled with accelerating geriatric decay in his last 6 years, made more acute by medical conditions that were not only painful, but transformed the monarch into a 28-stone psychotic monster, suspicious of everyone around him, including those most dear to him. So definitely focusing much more on the last few years of Henry VIII's life and focusing particularly on the medical side. Do I do it? Do I pile them all up? Oh, let's see how we go. So here we go. Here are all of the books that I have bought recently since my trip to York. Like I say, do not get used to this. This is not a normal sequence of events for me. I don't tend to buy lots and lots of books at once, even though the last 2 book hauls will make you think otherwise. Let me know if you have picked up any of the books that I've hauled recently. What did you think of them? I'd also love to hear about anything that you've hauled and are excited for recently. I'd love to hear from you. I hope you are having a fantastic, fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye!